Welcome everyone to the next session of Kauka Vimarsh. Today the topic is Ayurvedic diet and lifestyle for daily health by our own Dr. Vivek Shanbag. I think Kauka to everybody knows Vivek, and we know him, as the person who encourages everybody in pursuing their talents, in and just being so nice to everyone. He's so talented himself. The plays Bareta, he sings everything. He's part of the committee, it's in every way. And I'm sure most of us know, but there are some who might know that behind this extremely talented and sweet person, he's also a very well renowned doctor, an Ayurvedic doctor. And as you may know, doctors are busy during the weekends. In spite of that, he has made time for Kauka to present this session for us and to create all the materials to present. So we really appreciate all your efforts and the time you have put into this session. And the amount of thought he has put into this session is also incredible. You will know that once you see the session. Um, the way we'll do it is maybe half an hour or so. Dr. Shanbag will talk about the topic, which is Ayurvedic diet and lifestyle for our daily health. And after that, we'll hold off the questions till the end. As you already may know, Dr. Shanbag really thrives on questions from patients, from the people that he interacts with, and he enjoys helping people out in pursuing their health, and other questions. So he'll be more than happy to answer questions, but he has a lot of material prepared, so which will be very helpful. So just to ensure that the topic is on track, we'll wait for half an hour and we'll ask the questions towards the end, if you don't mind. You can still ask the questions in the chat so that you don't forget at the end, and then we'll address the questions later. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Shanbag and request you to please introduce yourself. We know you already, but as a doctor, as your Ayurvedic career abadala, if you tell us a little bit, and also what the session is. Thank you.
Unmute myself first. Thanks, Preeti, for that very warm welcome and introduction, and also to Kedar, okay, for organizing this wonderful session and giving me an opportunity to share some of my thoughts. Well, I wouldn't share about my career and all. I'll just talk about my journey. So, like everybody else, okay, I'm a Konkani, born in Honavar. My father, for his law practice, settled in Goa. So I pretty much grew up in Goa. And between Honavar and Goa, you have no choice but to fall in love with nature. So I am very crazy about nature. And as a natural extension of that outdoors love, it got me into Ayurveda. My father encouraged me in that. So I went to Karnataka University, Dharwad for my first bachelor's in Ayurvedic medicine and surgery, 5.5 years. Then at the same university, I did my 1.5 years of certified yoga educator training. And then came to Pune where my sister lives, and I did MD in Ayurveda there. I also did another course in nature cure there, and was working in a research institute, which eventually I became a head of. Then I had some opportunity of interacting with some German institutes in Pune, and I learned about holistic medicine. So I took a leap and came to first Bay Area. I was here for about an year and a half working with an MD in Concord, Dr. Naras Bhatt, who specialized in asthma and allergy. And at that time, I found out about something very complementary to my earlier training of Ayurveda, yoga, and nature cure, which is naturopathy. So I traveled to Seattle and got myself into this doctorate program in naturopathic medicine, which is a 5-year program, but they gave me advanced standing. This was back in 1989. And so I did I started my naturopathic doctorate training and took board exams and all. And because my passion is teaching, and I'm fairly vocal person, as you guys can see, I like to share. So I got an opportunity to teach, and before I knew, I started their Ayurvedic medicine department. So I was both a student and a head of the department in the same university at the same time. So it was a great opportunity. And then after graduation, I got my Washington State license, started our clinic there. That clinic led to a full academy. And then we lived in Seattle till 2006, from 1989 till 2006. By that time, okay, I was married. Gayatri became a certified nutritionist, worked with me. We had Omkar. And then again, Goa was calling. So I sold all of my businesses in Seattle after 17 years of building them, and returned to Goa for good. So I was so happy in Goa. We started a center there, Ayurveda and Yoga Center, and it was by to this country. But about 6 years later, considering Omkar's talents and potentials, we decided to come here, and I'm glad, otherwise I would not have met you all. So we came back here to California, and for last 8.5 years we have been here, and we have a place here in California now. So that's my journey throughout. It has been only into Ayurveda and related health sciences. So I will kind of quickly share and jump into the topic, and so that I can then later on get into questions and answers from everyone. So let me start, and if you can. This is a little bit about me, and we have here in Santana Row area natural medicine and Ayurveda clinic and academy. I got opportunities to write, I got opportunities to work for associations, and also teach at various places. So this is what I do, anything and everything related to Ayurveda, natural medicine, and nutrition. And my journey mainly has been in professionally in three places: Seattle for 17 years, Goa for 6 years, and then now here in Bay Area for 8 years. So we have a team of 6 practitioners here in San Jose. And so my journey has, so to set up the background for our today's presentation, my journey has led me to believe that no one health system has all the solutions. So I am not a blind professor of Ayurvedic concepts, because I also believe that no solution works the same way for every individual. Now, having learned Ayurveda, yoga therapy, naturopathic medicine, and at Bastille University in Seattle, I also got exposed quite a bit to acupuncture, oriental medicine, homeopathic medicine, all of that. And then while working for other doctors, I have interacted a lot with Western allopathic traditional medicine. So I recommend that we all integrate all healthcare wisdom and customize it for our individual wellness, because every system has something to offer. Now, during this presentation, we will be discussing a lot of health related information. So of course, okay, I have to have a disclaimer because I don't want to misguide any one of our listeners or viewers. So if you have any health problems, this presentation is not a substitute for a health consultation, proper diagnosis and treatment. Use this presentation only as educational purpose information, because everything needs to be individualized and customized. Each person's situation is different, and what you just hear in a general presentation should not be applied, okay, in your specific health condition. Now, one specific thing about Ayurveda here in the last paragraph is that Ayurveda is complex, okay, as complex as, or maybe even more complex than computer sciences, because I had to study it for about more than 9 years in 2 different universities. So to share this topic diet and lifestyle for daily health in 60 minutes. I should say, since I'm not so good in computer sciences, is as challenging as me asking my son, tell me in 60 minutes which computers and softwares are best for my business. And I think I once asked him that, and he left home and he has moved to Seattle now instead of answering that question. So you get the point. I will try my level best to share the information, but do understand that I'll be just scratching the surface. There is a lot more to this science than what can be presented in 60 minutes of presentation and questions and answers. So I have been working specifically in last few years with a group of doctors at India Community Center, ICC, here in Fremont, where we have a whole project called as Wellness and Lifestyle. And in last 1 year of COVID-19, we put many Zoom where most of the other board certified MD doctors, and I'm the only licensed naturopath with them. So about 30 of us have created many community events to educate people about wellness, diet, and lifestyle. And I do the part of Ayurveda and naturopathic education of that. So we have had people from all over the globe ask us, bombard us with questions about what a wellness diet and lifestyle can be used in this COVID situation. So I want to quickly share with you some practical tips about how we can boost our immune system. And this is just an example how a complex science like Ayurveda can be brought into simple tips. And I'll talk about how to customize it and individualize it. Now, whatever I'm sharing, you are welcome to take a picture of this slide so that you don't have to take notes, and then later on you can review it on your cell phone. So here are some best practices of diet and lifestyle for boosting immunity, for preventing infections, whether it is viral infections or even bacterial infections. So we divided, and these are presentations that we did for thousands of people during the last 1 year COVID-19. So a lot of research has gone into it from my team here. And these presentations have been very well received and appreciated because we brought it to practical, doable tips. So these are recommendations for immunity: dietary practices, dietary supplements, and wellness practices. So I'll quickly go over these. So if we want to boost our immunity, specifically in today's day where we are dealing with pandemics, I call this as we need to have self-reliance. We need to develop self-reliance because now for physical activity and exercise, we are not able to go to a gym where the machines have been used by other people, and both the counties as well as the CDC has been not allowing us to share those machines. So we have to find a way of self-reliance in physical activity and exercise. When it comes to diet, in the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, we couldn't go out to eat, okay, because again, there are risks of infections. So we had to again develop self-reliance in terms of diet and nutrition. Then thirdly, during COVID-19, we couldn't go to doctors or clinics or hospitals just for every single symptom because they were recommending come only in terms of life-threatening emergencies. The rest of it, okay, we will try to do it on priority basis, okay, and mostly by telemedicine. So again, when it came to prevention or immunity boosting, we had to rely more on self-reliance. So in last 1 year, I have been a big proponent of self-reliance in exercise and physical activity, self-reliance in diet and nutrition, and also self-reliance, okay, in boosting our immunity and preventing diseases. And here are some guidelines that we were giving practically how to get that self-reliance. So let's start with the diet. So in terms of boosting immunity, the best dietary practices are as simple as fill a clean thermos with pure hot water and take sips of that hot water every 30 minutes. So in a day, if you finish 2 of these thermoses, you will get about 5 cups of hot water. What that does is that it keeps your throat moist and helps to prevent viral infections, because the hot water drains the viruses into your stomach acid and drowns and kills most of them. Second thing is, while cooking your foods, whether it is vegetables, grains, lentils, or even meats, use excellent immune boosting herbs like turmeric, ginger, black pepper, garlic, and many of these are proven to be immune boosting. They also increase your stomach enzymes, okay, and digestions. Now, as you read some of these things, okay, many of us Konkanis will realize is that our ancestors used to follow many of these guidelines. So I should say that Konkani traditional, not the cities, okay, not big cities like Bangalore, Mumbai, Pune, Mangalore. Many of the big cities have slightly moved away from the traditional Konkani dietary and lifestyle practices because of modernization. But if you go to smaller towns, okay, like my birthplace, Honavar, okay, or like Kundapur, okay, or even smaller towns which are not completely modernized, okay, there most of the diet, the culinary practices, the lifestyle, which is more activity, physical activity oriented, all of them are more closer to wellness diet and lifestyle, or I should say Ayurveda, yoga, natural medicine diet and lifestyles. So many of us companies will say, hod kasan hai, megal aaj jahaj karta shila, megal am mahaj karta shile, antu Vivek Shanbagan sang hod kasan hai. But I would say, let's revive those practices, and let's really honor those practices which have come from our tradition. So filling up a thermos with hot water and sipping is not anything new to Konkanis, but now it is very important as a dietary practice. Cooking with turmeric, ginger, black pepper, garlic is not new to Konkanis, but it is even more important now so that we can boost our immune system. Avoiding dairy, specifically the dairy that has gone through the industrial production here in the West. I don't think the dairy traditionally that we used to get, or our ancestors used to get, was as congesting as today's dairy. But today's dairy industry is creating a product which is very congesting and slows down our metabolism and actually puts a damper on our immune system. So I usually now recommend my patients to avoid or minimize dairy, avoid sugars and sweeteners, which are specifically processed sugars and sweeteners. God is fine. So that's why I say in English, God is good and God is great. So the God or the molasses is fine, but the white crystalline sugar or any of the artificial sweeteners like corn syrup put a damper on our immune system, and they need to be avoided. Processed foods, whether it is maida or whether it is any processed food, too much polished rice, or all of the processed foods that comes in various packaged form, we need to avoid that. Of course, deep fried because of the trans fatty acids, and then cold items which reduce our secretions, which reduce our circulation, and then finally saturated animal fats. Again, dietary practices for immunity can itself be a whole topic of 1 month long training, but I need to summarize that in just 4 lines here. Then getting into dietary supplements for immunity based on the research that has been done in this country, in Europe, as well as in Asia. There are some common conclusions that scientific community has come to based on evidence, and that is that using some sets of herbs like curcumin, tulsi, and guduchi. Curcumin is amgel halad, tulsi is amgel tulasa darantashili, आणि गुडूची आम्ही ताका ह्या कसं अमृत बळली म्हणताची कोंकणीन, और कन्नडान ताका अमृत बळली म्हणताची, or in Hindi they call it giloy. Now these 3 herbs, tons of research has been done for more than a century, and also here in Texas at MD Anderson Cancer Research Center, how these are antioxidants. They are, as it says in the next sentence, they are immune boosters, antivirals, and anti-inflammatory. So it has been clinically proven that to take standardized extract of these herbs in the dosage of 1,000 milligrams each daily is an excellent supplementation for boosting your immunity and to prevent common viral or bacterial infections. And then finally, fish oil. Now, we Konkanis are pescatarians. आम्ही सदा जळके नालारी होन्नावरा देkan मासोळे म्हणचे गोंयान ताका नुस्तें म्हणचे. So we all are fish eaters, and so we get natural fish oil. But for some reason, if we are not getting swimming fish on a regular basis, then it's a good idea to supplement with a good quality fish oil as much as 2,000 milligrams daily, because it's an immune booster and anti-inflammatory. Finally, after the diet and the dietary supplements, when it comes to lifestyle or wellness practices, again, a simple one is so what is it? Gargle. So you do gargle with 1 cup hot water, half teaspoon of sea salt, and quarter teaspoon of halad powder, turmeric powder, and you do the gargle. And what that does is that the hot salt water improves the circulation of the capillaries in the throat area. You absorb the turmeric extract, and that mucous membrane or that whole capillary network goes into your nasal passages, sinuses, and also your middle ear, and it also goes down into lungs. So that turmeric that you absorb also goes to all of these areas through the capillary network. And turmeric is clinically proven to be one of the best natural antiviral, okay, antibiotic. It is an anti-inflammatory. It is also known as an immune booster. A lot of research done about turmeric, and doing that gargle, mita ghotment taka, or Marathi people call it gulnya, and I don't know what Kannadigas call it. So doing the gargle is a very important wellness lifestyle practice to boost immunity. Also, inhaling steam. So you just boil a pot of water, and being careful not to get the water spilled on you. You put a cloth or a towel above you, and you inhale that steam, okay, for about just less than a minute. And that steam inhalation does moisturizing inside your nasal passages, inside your sinuses, your whole respiratory tract, and prevents the augmentation of the viruses, okay, in your mucous membranes. And then, of course, the common sense lifestyle guidelines are exercise at least 30 minutes a day, meditate or do some kind of a relaxation for 20 minutes, and then get a good restful sleep for about 8 hours. So these were some things that we shared, and these were appreciated by the medical community. This was appreciated by the dietitians, by the various practitioners. So this is something, information that has been shared and circulated for more than a year now among various healthcare facilities. So for our listeners here, I would encourage you to feel free to take a picture of this. Now, another topic that I want to share some tips right now before we get into some more basics of Ayurveda is about gut health. So can everybody see the first line, or does it get covered? You can see it, right?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, so because I get a little bit covering because of the few of the bar, but you are able to see it. Perfect. So one more important area of our health is our digestion. In fact, Ayurveda and most healthcare systems believe that many of our health problems start when our digestion is not strong, when we are not able to break down our nutrients into the subcomponents, and we are not able to absorb it, or we are not able to eliminate the waste. So for gut health, nowadays, okay, there is so much of being talked about digestion and gut health and gut biome, and there is so much of research being done in that area. And Ayurveda and Ayurvedic nutrition has been at the forefront of that whole discussion. In fact, internal medicine in Ayurveda is called as Kaya Chikitsa, which is basically dealing with improving digestion. So we had a lot of requests from various gastroenterologists, okay, and medical community to share information about what are some simple best dietary practices, dietary supplements, and wellness practices gut health. So this is something again that we put together with some gastroenterologists. So, and this was presentations that we did. So we all can boost our normal gut flora with two types of nutrients. One are called as probiotics and other are called as prebiotics. So probiotics are amgal dahi, tak, ani ami gharan tuchi without using any preservatives. Ami gharan tu tayar kil nonchi or all of the pickles. Those are the best probiotics. So now it should not be store yogurt, or it should not be yogurt, okay, which has been sweetened, okay, with various fruit juices, and also those sweetened by whether it is peach flavor yogurt or blueberry flavored yogurt. I don't recommend those. But if homemade yogurt from natural starters, then those are the most helpful one. So that kind of yogurt or tak, buttermilk that we have made at home, that provides you rich source of probiotic. And then the low salt pickled veggies. So whether it be nimbia lonche, ki gazer lonche, nazar alya lonche, amble lonche, any of the pickles that we do at home, those are best sources of probiotics. Of course, in other cultures and communities, they use other sources like kefir, kombucha, sauerkraut, kimchi, tempeh, and those are fine too. But us Konkanis have always used nonche with every javan. Okay, we use the tak with every javan. We use dahi with every javan because though we did not label it as probiotics, that information was there. In fact, in Sanskrit, they said that uh, Shakram Takram Durlabha. So they said is that Indra, who was called as Shakra, Indra was considered as poor, though he had all of the wealth, because for him in Swarga, Tak was not available, because in Swarga no germs are there. So Swargantu Tak Malnamana, he was considered as poor because he couldn't, he didn't have the availability of this rich nutrient. So so Takram is Tak. So Indra does not get Tak in Swarga, so he's poorer than us human beings. So that was how the importance of tak was described in the Sanskrit literature. Now, the second group of nutrients that we need for our digestion, where we get the nourishment to the beneficial bacteria, is with prebiotics. And so what are these prebiotics? They actually nourish the bacteria, the beneficial bacteria. The yogurt, the buttermilk, and the low salt pickled vegetables, they actually boost the normal gut flora, whereas the second group, prebiotics, which are banana, garlic, mushroom, onion, they actually provide the nutrients to the healthy bacteria. Again, when we want to improve the digestion or the gut health, we should cook our vegetables with digestion improving spices and herbs like jeera, ajwain, badi shaper, which is fennel, and hing, which is asafoetida. And again, all of us Konkanis ami jeera padna galche, hinga padna galche. So we all of do that. So that's why I was saying is that our traditional Konkani cuisine is very close to very healthy and what now is considered as gut flora boosting nutrition, and we did it for thousands of years. So we need to go back to that instead of trying to go and swallow a capsule of probiotics, okay, or acidophilus. So we should go back to some of our practices, and many of us are doing it in a very aware way. Now, what are some of the dietary supplements for gut health? And these were also used by many of our malgade ಅಂಕ ಪುರ ಗೊತ್ತಶಿಲೆ ಪುಡೆ. For example, trifala, mast लोकांका ಗೊತ್ತಸ trifala तनी use करताचे. So trifala मा कसं नाही आवाळो कडे अनेक two nuts are there, beda and hirda. So avalo, beda, hirda, in Sanskrit they are called as amalaki, bibitaki, haritaki. Those are the names, and those three fruits together are called as the trifala. That's the picture that you see in the slide here. So trifala is very helpful for gut health. So is bale. Now, what is bale? Bale is bilva. I mean, Shiva ka bilva patri galtachi, and because it is anti-inflammatory. The Shivana, so Shankara, he drank the poison halahala, and so he is all inflamed inside. To calm his inflammation, he is actually offered the 3 leaves of bilva, and he is also offered the bilva phala. So that taka बेल फळ म्हणतात मराठी ना आणि आम्ही कोंकणीन सुद्धा बिल्व म्हणतात ना ताका आनी कसं नाव सांगत ना but it's called as bilva. And so people in coastal areas use the pulp of the bilva as anti-inflammatory. So it is very helpful for your digestive system. And we clinically we use the standardized herbal extract of it. Finally, licorice. आम्ही ताका कोंकणान गोडेकास्ट म्हणटाची. And so that is used again very helpful for gut health, specifically people who get acid reflux, heartburn. आम्ही ताका Indian acidity म्हणटाची. Hanga it is called as acid reflux or heartburn. That licorice is very helpful because it soothes the mucous membrane of our digestive system. So these enhance the gut health by boosting digestion, by reducing inflammation, and by improving elimination of waste and toxins. Finally, a good health practice in dietary supplement is जेवणा मागीर पान खाता आशिल्ले पळय फुडें. आत्ता पानान तूं तंबाखू घालताची, साखर loaded various types of sweet stuff घालताची. Fudे actually गांवान तूं पाना वटू थोडोसो lime which gives you bioavailable natural calcium, and then they used to put body shape, lavanga, kaderechi, thoda cinnamon, galante khawchishina. Nobody would put gulkand in there, nobody would put tambaku in there. And so it was the pure Ayurvedic food supplement. Now here, if we don't have all of those available, just chewing half teaspoon of fennel seeds gives us digestible fiber that reduces any of the food cravings immediately after a meal. And that fennel also provides us a lot of extra saliva when you chew on that. So just chewing fennel after every meal is an excellent practice for gut health. Finally, what are the lifestyle practices for gut health or digestion? Is intermittent fasting. आम्ही पुढे ताका कसं ना चतुर्थी उपवास, एकादशी उपवास म्हणकरच आशिल्ले. That was specifically designed twice a month. Okay, so on the so in fact it would happen on 4 times a month. So on the 4th day of the new moon and on the 4th day of the full moon, Chaturthi, the 4th day, and Ekadashi is the 11th day. So 4 times a month, okay, you would be fast, that you give rest to your digestive system. And so now it is under the new fashion or fad called intermittent fasting. Doesn't matter what we call it, you can practice it under intermittent fasting, or you can practice it under Chaturthi, Ekadashi, all of that. But doing this fasting where you do 2 or 3 feedings between 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then you fast from evening 7 p.m. to the next 9 a.m. So for about 14 hours you fast, and you try to eat in between that period of 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. 2 or 3 feedings. That is one of the best ways to help your digestive system. And for people who have more chronic digestive problems, in Ayurvedic medicine there is a whole therapy of gut detox and rejuvenation called as Ayurvedic Panchakarma. I will not get into the detail of that because that topic is a little bit vast topic and won't be ideal for this forum. So those are some things that I wanted to quickly share as practical tips. Now, these kind of tips are very general, okay, and then these tips, okay, do not give more what is called as the customized approach. So this is exactly like my son telling me is that where for my business, okay, what computer or what software, okay, I can use. He would say, oh, Dad, it's very complex. Okay, you need to first find out what your needs are. Okay, what kind of tools you are using, what are your requirements. So do one thing, okay, just get an iPhone. The smartphone will be the easiest computer and the easiest software for you. It is like that. What I have given you are very simplified, boiled down, quick solutions, okay, where irrespective of who you are, what your age is, what your situation is, for your immunity, you do take a picture of this and follow these guidelines. And for your digestion, take a picture of this and follow these guidelines. So there is no customization done. There is no individualization done. There is no history taken of any person. There is no physical exam done. I have given you very blanket, very broad, very general guidelines. The problem with such kind of guidelines is that if somebody has, say, Crohn's disease, or if somebody has irritable bowel syndrome, or if somebody already has a lot of inflammation in the digestive system, and if they just say, oh, Vivek Shanbag, okay, shared this slide, okay, and I'm just following, I'm having butter and our noncha, and I'm cooking with these herbs, okay, and then I'm taking triphala, and why? Because it was not individualized and customized. So if you really want to practice the science, or if you want to get benefit of the science, these general pieces of information that I shared in these two slides are more as a broad guidelines. But in reality, what should happen in Ayurveda? Can everybody see this slide? So the actual process in Ayurveda should be is that each one of us should try to understand what our mind-body type is. Taka Ayurvedic Sanskritanto Prakriti Mantachi. It is psychosomatic constitution. You should understand what your unique biochemical individuality is. And it is discussed in the language of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. It's a whole science and it can be learned. And I'm going to share some information about it depending on how much time we have. So that is the first step that needs to happen. And that usually happens, okay, when you either take time to learn about it on your own, or you take the help of a professional. Second thing is you should consume foods that are suitable for your unique mind, body type, and metabolism. So there is nothing called as one glove fits all. Okay, so there is no one size fitting all. It has to be customized for each person. And I'll share some about that in the next slide. Then you should use healing culinary herbs or spices, again, suitable for your mind, body type. You also need to follow a daily health routine suitable for your prakriti of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. And then I say that every day, besides eating for your body type, besides using spices for your body type, besides using a health routine every day, you should also take 3 wellness breaks of about 10 minutes each during the whole working day or whatever your life is, for nutrition, activity, and relaxation, which again, those breaks should be again customized for your mind, body type. So let me take a quick trip into it. And then depending upon how your interest is, our sharing with Preeti and Kedar is that we can even do another follow-up session to get into details of this. But let me give you a quick introduction to you to the first line here. Can everybody see the first line? Understanding your body, your unique mind-body type. So what is this understanding your unique mind-body type is? So understanding this constitution or Prakriti mind-body type is not only an Ayurveda concept or Ayurveda belief. This concept of finding your each person's unique mind-body type is very global. So Ayurveda uses the language of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. In Oriental or Chinese medicine, the same concepts are discussed in the language of Qi, Yang, and Yin. In the European Hippocrates or humoral system, they called it blood or sanguine, bile or choleric, or phlegm or phlegmatic body types. In the shamanic healing tradition, they call it biological air principle, fire principle, water principle. In the European somatotyping, they call it ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph. And finally, right here in Bay Area, about years ago, the psychologists and therapists, they created this typing called as non-A, non-B, type A and type B. So many of you have heard this says, oh, my boss is type A, okay, or my cousin is type A personality. So you must have heard about people talking in terms of body types or mind body types. So this is a whole science where by studying the various characteristics of the person or the patient, whether it is their pulse rate, whether it is their heart rate, their blood pressure, their pH levels, the the texture of their skin, the measurements of their eyes, okay, um, the texture of their hair, what the amount of saliva secretion in their mouth is, what the tone of their voice is, based on at least, okay, 40 different parameters. Evaluation of the person's unique mind body type is done. It's a complete science, and Ayurveda then finds out that the person is vata predominant, pitta secondary, kapha tertiary, or somebody is kapha predominant and pitta secondary. So everybody has this vata, pitta, kapha. Now the same vata, pitta, kapha in different systems, they have been given different names. That's what this slide shows. So now let's try to understand what is this Ayurvedic language of vata, pitta, kapha is. So what Ayurveda says in the first paragraph is the world surrounding us, that is the physical universe or the macrocosm, and the microcosm, that is the biological universe within me, has the same 5 common components. So earth or solids, water or liquids, fire or energy, air or gases, and ether or spaces and cavities. So they are called as Pancha Mahabhutas is what is called in Sanskrit. So all of us have solids, liquids, energies, gases, and spaces. Now, Vata is the one that represents the ether and air, and it deals with functions like communication. So all of the nervous system is called as Vata. The movements that happens with the help of the various nerve impulses is Vata. The transportation that happens, okay, with the circulation, with the peristalsis, all of that is called as Vata. So a person who has more dominant of Vata will usually have cold skin, dry skin, will be usually light in weight, will usually talk fast, think fast, walk fast, react fast, and will be slightly unstable. Okay, they change their decisions very fast. They move fast. So their characteristics are, again, as I said, they will usually have a dry skin, lean build. They'll be fast speaking, and jokingly we call them as hyperactive airhead. That's what a Vata predominant person will be. Now, everybody will have all of these 3 components, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, but one of them could be more and the other can be less. Now, a classic example of Vata is the Kramer guy in Seinfeld. How many of you have seen Seinfeld at one point or another? So if you have seen Seinfeld, then the Kramer guy in that is more of a Vata characteristic. Then Pitta represents the elements fire and water. So this means that this person has more dominant digestive systems, has more dominant enzymes, and also more dominant hormones. So there is more transformation. So this person's digestion is strong. This person's heat metabolism is strong. So they will usually have much warmer skin. Their words will be sharper, their mind will be sharper, they will be reactive, and they will have easy sweating, they will have easy salivation, and so they will have more fluidity in the body. So they will have more softer skin and more softer body. So their attributes are, they are warmed, flushed, soft skin, more rounded body, and jokingly we call them that this person is always hungry and always angry. So they have a very strong appetite and can feel hungry or can be upset very easily. Again, that's a exaggeration. Everybody has Vata, everybody has Pitta, everybody has Kapha. Some people might have slightly more Pitta. So again, in the same Seinfeld, a good example of this is the stout, short George guy, okay, who is very reactive, who gets angry very easily, who gets upset very easily. If you have seen that serial. Then coming to Kapha represents the elements of earth and water. So in this person, the structure is bigger. They usually have more tendency to growth and more tendency towards storage. So they are usually heavy, slow, stable, cool. And the attributes of this person will be the kapha predominant person usually has strong bone, has more sweet tooth. They have craving for sweet, and they are usually slow, lazy, and we usually call them couch potato. So we don't have this kind of person in Seinfeld, but we have it in Roseanne. The Roseanne's husband, okay, the guy, okay, he was more of a typical kapha guy. So all of us have these components, but and then there's a whole science about how to evaluate it, and this science has been used for more than 5,000 years. All Ayurvedic colleges teach a very systematic methodology about how to evaluate it and how to do the physical examination, the pulse examination, all of that. So then, based on these, actually you can customize the nutrition, the activity, and relaxation. Say, for example, the Vata person who is usually hyperactive, they should take 10-minute breaks 3 times a day, and their break should be more focused on relaxation. Second focus should be on nutrition, and third focus should be on activity. So at least 3 times a day, a Vata person should take a simple break for this gentle belly breathing, or what we call as Anuloma Viloma Pranayama. So you just do the alternate nostril breathing for about good 3 minutes, and do the dead body pose, or what is the corpse pose, or the Shavasana, for just about 3 minutes. Then the Vata people, usually because they have dry skin, because they have lesser body mass, they should have a snack of some nuts and seeds, or maybe a small sandwich of whole grains and some organic protein, whether it is a nut butter, or if they are into, say, fish or chicken or egg, they can have a little bit of that, or even bean curd, so some kind of a nut protein. So amgele tila unda nazalar tila kaju badam galna unda. So even that can be a good protein for this Vata person. And then the last thing for the Vata is they can do some stretching like Surya Namaskar. So a Vata person 3 times a day should take this 10-minute break with more focus on relaxation, second focus on nutrition, and third focus on activity. Whereas a Pitta person, because they always are more fiery, we call them always angry and always hungry, the Pitta person should take 3 breaks in a day, where the focus should be on nutrition. So they should be having some cooling product, okay, which could be soy milk, or which could be organic dairy if they are not allergic to that, or some ripe and sweet fruit. Then the second focus for them should be relaxation. Music is very relaxing for a Pitta person, and activity is exercise during cooler times of the day. So a Pitta fiery should not exercise during the middle hot time of the day. They should do their exercise either in the morning or in the evening, and nature walks are good for them. Finally, the Kapha person, who is usually has a bigger build, has tendency towards slightly overweight, they should take their breaks, and every time their focus should be more on vigorous activity. So they should do like 3 times a day, they should take 10-minute break, and during that 10-minute break, their focus should be climbing stairs or jogging or skipping rope or doing some push-ups. Then they can take some nutrition with simple ginger or green tea, and do relaxation for brisk walk, or do some Surya Namaskar. So again, earlier when I showed the previous slide here, talking about immunity or talking about gut health, we did not do anything for customizing it for different person's mind, body types of Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So we did not do any of that. But these are very general guidelines, and they might or might not work depending upon who uses it, because it needs to be again customized. But if you want to really customize things, a person should first know their mind body type and customize everything for them. And to understand that, they need to take a little bit time to study about what Vata Pitta Kapha is, or get guidance from a professional to find out their levels of Vata Pitta Kapha. A simpler way is in this slide, where I explain some of the characteristics of what Vata Pitta Kapha are. This is a very, the finding out the mind body type itself in Ayurvedic medical schools is a 2-year process to study the whole science, but I'm just oversimplifying it here. And then you can now take that knowledge of each individual mind body type and convert it into practical tips about nutrition, activity, and relaxation. So here I'm done with my presentation. I wanted to give some practical tips, some general, some specific. So I will stop here, and definitely invite questions or comments, and then we can talk about if you want to get into detail the session.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shanbag. That was amazing. The amount of information that you shared, and like you said, that's the tip of the iceberg. So we can imagine the amount of knowledge you have. So with that, we can, if you don't mind, Vivek, can you please stop presenting so we can see everybody's
Perfect.
and earlier, Dr. Shanbag kindly agreed to sharing this presentation for those who are interested. So, it was very nice of him to share this information. So if anyone has questions, you can start asking now.
So I can start. Yeah,
Sure.
so I have actually two questions. One is, firstly, Dr. Shanbag, it's amazing. I mean, I've always been fascinated by Ayurveda. I can, you can listen to it for 10 hours and not get bored. It's so interesting. And you really talked about all these herbs that you can take. But my question to you is specifically on, because I read a lot and you sometimes wonder book knowledge, is it, right or wrong, is the neem and methi seeds, fenugreek. I mean, you just hear that it's really good for yourself. And so I did order neem oil drops to put in water. And then when I'm reading about it, they talk about it being possibly toxic to your liver and your kidneys. So that was one question on what is dosage. Is it true? Because in India, they say neem is really good, but it's more topical than internal. I've never heard of internal until I came here. So the first question is neem. What do you think about it? Is it toxic? What about methi seeds? Everyone recommends drinking methi seeds in water first thing in the morning. So that's related to the herbs. And then I can actually go on to the second question, which I've asked before, and there's controversy on it because the Heart Association, even here recently when we had the previous Vimarsh, or I forget what it was, but Heart Association talks about ghee being really to limit the ghee intake. But the latest information has always been more ghee, more coconut oil, more avocado oil, and not refined oil. And so what's your take on ghee? Because a friend of mine who's literally turned her health around, her looks, her health, everything, by just consuming and pretty much cooking all her food in ghee. And she says she does have about 3 tablespoons to 4 tablespoons. If she measures it, then approximately that's her daily intake. So those are my three-part questions. Sorry.
No problem, Amita. Thanks for being so attentive in this and for your passion for Ayurveda and asking me a very specific question. So the answer for all of those questions relating neem, methi, ghee, coconut, avocado is, if anybody tells you that methi is good, okay, or ghee is good, okay, first of all, throw it out of the window. When a blanket statement is made like that, okay, you should always question it, because if somebody says, okay, one glove fits all, okay, then okay, something is wrong with it. It's like just somebody telling me, oh, go ahead and buy Tesla stocks, okay, tomorrow. No, it should be first customized. Okay, what are the person's investing goals? Okay, what is the size of their portfolio? What is their um, uh, destination? Okay, what is their exit strategy? So you need to do the same thing. Okay, for in terms of health, there is nothing called as, oh, methi is good for you or neem is good for you. That is the trend or hype, more so in last 50, 60 years, more so here in the West, okay, where when I first came to this country, the hype was butter is bad for you, margarine is good for you. After,
Yeah.
so everybody was throwing the butter out and everybody was into margarine. Then came that, okay, no, okay, margarine is bad for you, butter is good for you. And we keep going into these things because we believe that one size fits all. Ayurveda's or for any natural health science and common sense is that we each have different metabolism, different biochemistry. And for our metabolism, for our biochemistry, we have to select the nutrients or foods or even herbs, whether it is neem or methi for our. So answering your question about neem, so neem is good for people who have inflammation. So a pitta person who has inflammation on their skin, or pitta person, okay, who has inflammation in their liver. Neem is a bitter, and that bitter will be helpful for them. But if a person is vata predominant, where they are lean, okay, where they are dry skin, okay, and then they don't have any inflammation, they take neem, their skin will get even drier. They will start having constipation. They will start losing their sleep, and they'll say, oh, neem gave me side effect. No, it is you gave yourself side effect by using it inappropriately. It did not fit you. So that's the thing, is that neem is an anti-inflammatory and it should be used by people who have inflammation. Methi, on the other hand, methi is a sugar balancing nutrient. So I mean, we do methi bhaji, and methi is a common culinary herb that is used in cooking on a regular basis. In various masalas, methi goes. Now, first of all, methi should be used in small amounts. So it shouldn't be, it is not like muga dal, or it is not like any other grain that you use plenty of it. It should be used in small amount. And methi is usually recommended for either pitta predominant or kapha predominant people. So people who have slow metabolism, people who have family tendency of diabetes, okay, or glycemic problems, they should, traditional Ayurvedic way is soak about 1 teaspoon of methi overnight. Next day you grind it and you drink it. Or you use methi in masalas, like methi is used, okay, in dosas, various dosas, you put a little bit of methi, or in all pickles, methi goes in. So again, I would not use a blanket statement like, oh, everybody should be taking methi or everybody should be using neem. Coming to your second question about ghee. Traditional ghee, which came from free-ranging cows that were not confined to 3 feet by 6 feet tall, that are not pumped with steroid injections, antibiotic injections, and given only one type of fodder, is a completely different nutrient than the ghee that gets from today's butter and milk that comes from a cow that is confined to only 3 feet to 7 feet tall, that is genetically engineered and is pumped with hormones to produce milk that is much more heavier. So I would say that today's ghee prepared from the butter that comes from today's dairy industry is not recommendable. Coconut oil, on the other hand, avocado, on the other hand, are the more desirable healthy fats. Specifically speaking about us Konkanis, having come from genetically from that area of coastal area, Amgal Srifal. So coconut is Srifal. It is the most valuable fruit to our whole culture. So that's why it is given to the gods. It is also given to the elders. It is also the one that is worshipped in the beginning of any ceremony. You first put the kalash sthapan karta mantam, but no,
Right.
you do the kalash with the coconut, because it is, again, there is a whole workshop that can be done on coconut alone. But coming to the nutritional value of it, there has been bad rap about coconut. So again, when I came here in this country in 1989, coconut had such a bad rap that, oh, it increases cholesterol. And I used to argue with Dr. Bhatt, my first employer, saying that, Dr. Bhatt, if coconut was so bad, then all of my ancestors would have been wiped off of the face of the earth and I wouldn't be standing here. Because in our households, and even his household also, when he came from, his family came, I think, from south of Kalai Todi is the name of the town, south of Kerala, south of Mangalore. So he came from that, and even he's in his households, being coastal, at least 3 coconuts are used for a family of 5 people every single day. If that is the case, if coconut caused you a heart problem, all of their coastal area should have been deserted long time ago with people dropping dead with heart diseases. No, the research on coconut in this country was done with the pina colada drunk at frozen temperatures with the coconut milk. They did not grind coconut with cayenne and turmeric and coriander and jeera and black pepper and cooked it with vegetables. The only way people use coconut in this country was making pina coladas and drinking with the coconut milk. So they did not know how to use it. So coming back to coconut oil even now is healthy because they have not found a way of genetically or chemically messing up coconut like the way how they have messed up with the cows. So coconut oil, when it's used in pure form in moderation, is healthy, more so for vata and pitta constitution. The kapha bulky constitution should go easy on all types of oils. So I hope I have not given a too long answer for your short question.
No, it's very helpful. Thank you. Makes perfect sense. And even to the ghee, she specifically, when she talked about ghee, it was desi cow ghee. She said, don't touch local ghee. It's always desi cow ghee. So,
yeah. So
okay,
now,
thank you though. Perfect.
You're welcome. When you put those qualifiers, okay, after you put those qualifiers and make the information more specific, then you get more and more towards the correct knowledge. When there are no qualifiers and when there are general conclusions drawn, those are very misleading and dangerous for anybody. I see Vinaka raising a hand.
Thank you, Vivek. Amazing.
You're most welcome, Amita. I always enjoyed talking to you, whether it is about science or whether it is about music.
Thank you.
Hi, Vivek. Great presentation.
Thank you, Vinaka.
I want to also talk about, you said coconut oil is good and olive oil. Part of it is also the food industry does a lot to push whatever, because I remember butter is bad, take margarine because they want to sell margarine. Olive oil is better for you. The olive oil industry wants to get in there. And then coconut oil is bad, take canola, don't take canola. It's all, the food industry also gets into it. It's a big conspiracy there.
Now you
Anyway.
see the big bottle of the coconut that comes from Costco. It says world's best oil. Can you believe that? I have a doubt that they must have bought some thousands of acres of coconut plantation
In Kerala.
somewhere and they now want to paddle it.
Exactly. Anyway, coming back to your presentation, I have to say I'm a big advocate of the immunity boosters. And since, was it March or April, Vivek? I've been taking the guduchi, tulsi, and curcumin and the Chyawanprash combination. And you see me alive and well. So thank you, Vivek.
You're most welcome. Vinaka, I always appreciate your progressiveness and your pursuit of science, because you are into evidence and you are into balanced information. So that's what my first sentence was, is that integrating all information to use it in a customized way is the smart way to go. We shouldn't blindly believe in any one approach, because no one system has all the answers. So though I have studied Ayurveda for the longest time, I also believe in homeopathy. I believe in oriental medicine. I also believe in traditional medicine when it is properly applied. So all sciences do have their right place. And for each one of us, we need to just integrate them well. When it comes to chronic health problems, Ayurveda and natural sciences have much to offer in reversing those chronic health problems. Okay, whether it is digestive health problems, musculoskeletal health problems, nervous system health problems, hormonal health problems, cardiovascular health problems, urinary health problems, skin and dermatology. So whatever is very chronic, Ayurveda and natural medicine is very helpful. When it's something is very acute and something life-threatening, then I would also use it in combination with the what we call as traditional allopathic medicine here. So each system has a lot useful things to happen. We just need to use them wisely.
Now, my question to you was, according to, is there any correct time to take it, or is it okay to take it like in the morning or afternoon? I am taking it since April, but
Take
sometimes,
the immune boosters.
yes.
The immune boosters work best when you take them in the beginning of the meal. So
Okay.
if you take them at the beginning of the breakfast, or if you take them at the beginning of the lunch, you'll get the best results. Now, even if you take it after it won't harm you. You'll still benefit with it. But since your question is about, is that a best time? The optimum is in the beginning of the meal.
No, but I'm taking them all together just so I remember, because it's become a routine now. So I just,
Yes.
it's okay to take all together. That's my.
Yes, you can take them all together in the beginning of the meal, preferably breakfast.
Okay, that's what I'm doing. So yeah, thank you.
Sure. I see Shilpachi raising her hand. Go ahead, Shilpachi.
Yeah, I wanted to know whether Triphala is good even for the sugar, blood sugar.
Triphala is known, again, Triphala is the combination of these three fruits, Amalaki, Bibitake, Heritaki, Konkanantaka, Avada, Beda, and Hirda mantachi. And people used to use that. Actually, when a young child is born, what is called as Balaguti, every mother and grandmother used to carry these three fruits along with 7 other herbs, okay, in there. So there would be Godcast would be there, then the Vekhand would be there, okay, then there will be all kinds of things, and they would actually give it to a child. So among them, Triphala always used to be there. Nowadays, commercially, those three fruits in equal amounts are dried and powdered, and that powder is called as Triphala. People also use capsules of it. So the Triphala is an anti-aging and an antioxidant. Now, it can be used in different ways. One use of it is in balancing your sugar. So you again, to understand what the correct dosage is, might have to talk to somebody who can evaluate you and you get. But otherwise, Triphala is fairly without any side effects and without any harm. So if you want to start very safely, you can take one capsule of it, okay, at lunchtime and at dinner time, and it will help your improving your metabolism. Now, if you have too much of blood sugar levels, then you need to kind of first get yourself evaluated. But there won't be any harm in you taking one capsule of Triphala at lunchtime, one capsule of Triphala at dinner time.
Okay. I just read it. I had read it, so I asked you.
Yeah. It is one of the most popular Ayurvedic anti-aging, antioxidant. It's a very balancing formula for all three, Vata, Pitta, Kapha.
Oh, okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
Vivek, for vegetarians, instead of fish oil, can the flaxseed oil be a replacement?
It's not an exact replacement of it. Flaxseed gives you omega-3, and the fish oils gives you much more than that. It has got the EPA, DHA, eicosapentaenoic acid, and few other nutrients. But yes, if you are completely not accepting fish oil as a supplement, then the next step can be flaxseed oil. But I also recommend then to include some nuts and seeds, okay, like almonds, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, and sunflower seeds, about 2 tablespoons a day. And I'm thinking you are asking it for yourself, so I'm just giving it based on that kind of age recommendations. So having soaking about 5 almonds, 5 walnuts, about 1 teaspoon of pumpkin seeds, 1 teaspoon of sunflower seeds, and then chewing them well the next day can also give you other oils along with the flaxseed oil.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Vivek ma'am, I have a question.
Sagar.
Kundi ma'am wants to know about vitamin D3. He said it's supposed to be good for immunity. Is that true?
That is true. Now, of course, the best way to get your vitamin D3 is for Hunde Mom to take his newspaper and sit in the backyard, or his iPad and sit in the backyard and get some sun. That would be the best way to get D3. In fact, traditionally, what they used to recommend is that Cobrel tel anga klauna, you sit in the sun, and that's even better. So if you do a self oil massage with coconut oil and then sit in the sun, now you have to, the timings have to change. In India, the sun oscillations are not that, so you can go at certain times, whereas here in summer, even 10 o'clock sun can be very harsh, whereas in winter 12 o'clock sun is bearable. So so it has to be less harsher sun and with some coconut oil. But if that is not possible, then he can still take D3. He can take D3, and that's very helpful. Yeah.
Is there how much D3 is good?
Usually, okay, it is if you have to first measure your D3, okay, by blood test, again, based on that, the dosage is given. But usually the safe is 1000 IU, okay, daily. So that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Most welcome.
Dr. Shanbhag, I have a question for you. This is Priya.
Hi, Priya.
Hi. I was just wondering, what are your thoughts on replacing millets for rice, one? And is there a particular millet? And second, I wanted to ask you is, I heard about this Neelavembu Kashai from India for immunity boosting. And when I was just doing some research, I heard that the Sanskrit name is Kirat, and my mother said, oh, this is the Kirat Kadi Kashai that my mom gave us every week. So what are your thoughts on it, and how often can we take it? And so if you can please explain.
Sure. So rice, when it is taken natural para-boiled rice, which I mean, the ukda sheet is an excellent nutrient. Okay, it is the most hypoallergenic food, and it provides you good complex carbohydrates. So that's why people having peje javan, okay, with the ukda sheet, okay, were very healthy and had alkaline state of their digestive system, because it puts your digestion in an alkaline state and keeps your inflammations away. But if nowadays, okay, when you use polished white rice, okay, then that becomes a source of too much of simple carbohydrates and increases blood sugar levels for many people, specifically if our physical activity is of lower intensity. If you spend too much time at desk or whatever we are doing in sitting position. So then nowadays it is recommended to use millets. So I would say millets cannot actually replace the rice, but if for various reasons the rice is causing you obesity or higher blood sugar levels, then you can replace millets. Among millets, okay, all the small size millets are the more healthier ones, okay, whether it is moog or matki, tsauli, all of the smaller size millets, the smaller the millets are, the healthier they are. So ragi and all of those are the smaller ones. The bigger you go, okay, into the lentils, okay, and all, okay, which is, okay, chana, vatana, kidney beans, aduki beans, okay, all of those, the bigger the ones, okay, then, okay, they are not so good for your digestion. So stay into millets and dals that are smaller size. So that's the answer to your first question. Second one is this, can you repeat the Tamil name or the Telugu name? The
I think
Malayali
it's
name?
called the Neelavembu Kashai, and I think it's called Kalmeg here.
Kalmeg, yeah. So Kalmeg is, okay, Jirat Kaddi that, okay, we Konkanis used to have, okay, and it used to be that bitter thing, okay, that your grandma gave you while growing up. And that's an excellent liver tonic, by the way. Kalmeg is an excellent, Kalmeg is the Sanskrit name. That's an excellent liver tonic. It's a bitter. Because it is a liver tonic, it is a good immune booster. Now again, for Vata predominant people, it can create more dryness in the system. But for Pitta predominant and with the Kapha predominant body types, it's an excellent thing. Since I'm not very familiar with some of the South Indian languages of either Malayalam or Tamil, I don't recognize that name. But when you said the Sanskrit name Kalamega, or the Konkani name Kiraita or Jirat Kadi, that's an excellent liver tonic and immune booster.
Thank you. And I'm glad
You're
you
welcome.
talked about the Ukra Tandoor, because my kids and I, we love Ukra Tandoor and we have been using it. My husband doesn't prefer it, but he's sitting right next to me. So coming right from a doctor is very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, we'll talk about that offline later. I'm just
I
kidding.
have one question. Hi, Vivek Dada.
I won't tell him that you told me to say so, you know.
Hi, Madhuri here. Hi, Vivek Dada. I had one question.
Bol Madhuri.
You talked about nuts. I heard somewhere, but I did practice it sometime, but not regularly because sometimes we forget. So I heard about these pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds, almonds. If you have to take intake in any of your, morning breakfast, they say overnight you need to, soak it and then rinse that and then consume it. So is it because it has its natural coating, which should not be taken? That's what I heard, but I have not practically done it always. Sometimes I forget to do it, so I just wanted to know your say on it. And the second question is, what one thing as a family would you recommend anyone, all kids and parents, can have one vitamin as per you? I know there is, as you said, there is no one something fixed for everyone, but would you recommend any specific vitamins for whole family in general without any restrictions as such?
Sure. So first, your question about nuts and seeds. So again, there is no blanket statement that everybody should have nuts and seeds. The Vata predominant people, which are usually thin and lean, who have usually cold skin, dry skin, more dry scalp, okay, and who are slightly hyper in their nervous system. Okay, again, I'm just summarizing. There's a lot many characteristics to understand a Vata, but I have to give some summary. So for Vata predominant, nuts are a requirement. Because their body has lesser essential oils in them, so they need to have nuts and seeds on a regular basis. Now the Kapha predominant, which usually has a bigger build, okay, which is more muscular, there is more tendency towards hanging on to extra weight. That Kapha predominant person should stay away from nuts, because nuts, okay, are more richer, they have more oils, okay, they are more heavier, nuts and seeds. So Kaphas should stay away from nuts, and Vatas can go nuts, you know. So for that, when if a Vata person is taking the nuts, then the Vatas can soak them. I have never heard in scientific evidence about needing to wash it. But now, if you are using something that is processed, and if if it is processed in certain way, then maybe washing is a good idea. But if the nuts, like my mom or my grandma used to, दूध दिकेना हाडल्यार दुध्याचे बिये काडचे ते वतान सुकोवचे सुकोवन ते ती सोलयता बसता आशिल्ली. So then they would take out the dudya biyo. Same thing with sunflower seeds. So if that it is not processed at all in any way, where there is no preservatives are used, I don't think any washing is required. I don't think birds wash their seeds before
washing or soaking it overnight means, I think, the almond,
soaking.
not almond.
I think soaking makes it it's easy for digestion, specifically if somebody has a weaker digestion. So I would say, but a Pitta predominant person who has strong digestion can just pop the nuts and seeds in their mouth and eat them, and will digest it at any time. But for Pittas, they shouldn't eat nuts, okay, which are more fiery. So Pitta should stay away from fiery nuts like peanuts and cashews, So those are and pistachios. So those few nuts are the ones that pitta prone people, they can have them, but they should have them in very less quantity. Your second question was about one general vitamin that anybody can have. Now, traditionally, everybody knows that in India, but here, okay, many times we have to hear it again. One of the best vitamins, okay, that Ayurveda usually recommends for all people in a family, for all age groups, is of course Chawanprash, because Chawanprash is the main ingredient is avada, which is rich in natural vitamin C and bioflavonoids, which are antioxidants and anti-aging. And that avada is cooked in natural sugarcane juice. So it is not white crystalline sugar, with few other herbs that are very helpful in improving digestion. And you get a very balanced amount of all vitamins and minerals. So if you ask your ancestors, Madhuri, or my ancestors, okay, they grew up in households where they used to cook their own Chawanprash. So and even now, my wife Gayatri's mama, her uncle in Tirthalli, he still cooks his own Chawanprash, okay, every year, and he provides it to the rest of his family because they knew it how to prepare their own vitamins and then have it. So
Yeah,
I would, yeah. So I would say Chawanprash would be a good general nutrient, and luckily it is so well known all over the world that you can buy it anywhere. You just have to do the due diligence of finding out, okay, what are the good manufacturers of Chawanprash, and then use.
I do agree what you're saying, Vivek Dada, but the only thing is earlier when they were kids, they used to love Chawanprash, but now it's very difficult. I can eat. It's like, that very, the strong taste is there, right? It's very difficult for them to, now it's not a jam sort of thing, right? So that's my only concern. But I understand Chawanprash is there always, yes.
Yes, yes. Our Vinaka is showing her Chawanprash.
Yes, yes. I also have it, yes.
I like it so much I can put it as icing on my cake.
I agree. I love it too. But going as they grow big, their taste change. So that's the reason. Yeah.
Initially, in my clinic, many of my patients couldn't say the long, specifically the local Americans couldn't say the long name Chawanprash. So they used to call it like Dr. Shanbag's Gu,
So no, but the thing, my question again was like when now I remember when we used to soak almonds and eat. When I was young, like when at mom's place, we always soaked it overnight. Next day in the morning, we used to peel it and then we used to eat the almond. So now here with pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds, which definitely I'm not eating fresh. I'm taking the store bought, organic or whatever, the packet one. So they say you have to soak it. Next day you rinse that water and then put it. So that's what I heard. So I don't know how much.
I don't see any harm in that. The science behind is that when you soak any nuts or seeds, the nut or seed gets tricked into thinking that it's going to now germinate into a plant. So when it's soaked overnight, as it absorbs the water, it thinks I'm going to become a plant now. So then it starts releasing certain enzymes because now it wants to give out the germ and it wants to give out the leaves and all. So when that seed thinks that it's going to germ, it activates itself and it releases some of its enzymes. And so at that time, after peeling, if you eat, it becomes easily digestible for you. But again, as I said earlier, if somebody has pitta digestion, which is strong digestion, they can still chew it just from the bottle or from wherever it is and still digest it well. So if you want to really get the optimum nutrients from the nuts and seeds, soaking is a good idea.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Question, Vivek. It was very interesting how you said, there are different body types and not just body types, even mind types based on the body constitution. That is so interesting. And as you mentioned, it's a summary that you presented to us, so we understand the concept, but it's a much bigger science. So if we want to understand our body type, our kids' body type, the ideal way to do it is to go to a practitioner like yourself, isn't it? And get a consultation done, even if there's no health problems, even just as a proactive measure to, just for being proactive about our health, isn't it? Just like Pinaka said, to boost immunity and so on.
The ideal way is to go to an Ayurvedic college, study for about 5.5 years, okay, and then master it yourself and then be able to learn it. But if that is not possible, then you consult a professional, okay, and then so that usually in a consultation like that, it's usually about an hour long, okay, and then the first questionnaire is emailed, and that takes about 10 minutes for the person to fill out the questionnaire, okay, and then if you happen to have any of your, if you are not well, if you have symptoms, because we are primary care providers, so we treat patients from simple cold to cancer, okay, a simple headache to Parkinson's. So all kinds of patients come to us. We have been doing it for the last 31 years. I have a team of 6 doctors who works with me here, and I'm a California licensed naturopathic doctor. So we keep medical records like any other doctor, and the people bring their field health history form. If they happen to have any handy blood reports or any other reports, they bring that in. And then the first visit is usually about 1 hour long. During that, like any other doctor, detailed history is taken, then a physical exam is done with focus on some of the non-invasive techniques like the pulse examination or Nadi Pariksha, and then evaluation of tongue, skin, nails, hair, eyes. Then there is detailed information about family health history. For women, their menstrual, gynecological, obstetric history, your current diet, lifestyle, and then based on the history, the physical exam, evaluation of the person's mind body type and where the imbalances are done. By the way, since I was trying to concise a 2-year learning into a 2-minute slide, I just told you about Vata, Pitta, Kapha, but within Vata, there are 5 types of Vata: Prana, Udana, Samana, Vyana, Apana. And then same way, there are 5 types of Pitta, 5 types of Kapha. So it's a much complex science. And all of that evaluation is done and explained to the patient. And then a treatment plan is prepared. And usually the treatment plan, whether it is somebody is having a headache, or whether somebody is having arthritis, or somebody is having acne or psoriasis or Crohn's disease or premenstrual syndrome, okay, or back pain, okay, or whether they are having premenstrual problems. So for all chronic problems, we have many patients with diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol that come. For most of them, we put their treatment plan in 4 approaches, so 4 parallel approaches. So they are recommended certain Ayurvedic clinically proven safe herbal formulas based on what their pathology is. Second is very detailed diet guidelines, what foods they should include, what foods they should avoid, how they should combine foods, what culinary spices or herbs they should use. Then finally about lifestyle, like what kind of exercise they should do, walking or stretching or yoga, what asanas, and all of the details about that. Even pranayama and meditation, specific ones are written down and even instructions are given. And finally, if we see any role of any toxins or contaminants, then detailed guidelines in writing are given about what simple detox or cleanse they can do on their own at home. So at the end of a visit, every patient gets a whole 8-page booklet about their evaluation and about their treatment plan, everything written down and explained. Most of the patients are able to send it to their insurance company or even pay it with their HSA, health savings accounts, or their flexible spending account. So we have most of our patients come from all of the big companies here. So whether it is Apple, Google, Cisco, Netflix, NVIDIA, all of the Bay Area companies, okay, see us, and many of the families have us their primary care providers.
Thank you, Dr. Shanbhag. And there is no lower age limit, right? Because it's always good to start young. And as Madhuri said, if parents are putting a lot of effort to make their kids take certain things, but if it's not meant for their body type, it's a wasted effort. So would you recommend even kids being,
usually for kids, okay, they shouldn't be seeing doctors, okay, because eating healthy itself, okay, and having a balanced food at home should be sufficient for them. But if they have any symptoms or any health problems, okay, then instead of them just popping pills or doing some symptomatic relief or going and getting a commercial cough syrup, it will be helpful to take a natural Ayurvedic approach. But otherwise, if a kid is healthy, then eating a balanced meal is enough. They don't need doctors for that. I do want to share a little bit of the Konkani connection if there are no other questions. There is a Konkani connection to Ayurveda. So thousands of years ago, okay, when the Saraswati river dried up and all of the Konkanis were moving from north to south, one of their leaders, okay, who took these caravans down, okay, was Parshuram, okay. And Parshuram led, okay, some of these rishis, okay, there were rishis, and among them there were rishis like Bharadwaj Rishi, Kashyap Rishi, many of these rishis, okay, who, and we say our gotras, right? We tell our gotra, Kashyap gotra, Kaundinya gotra, Shankapingal gotra, Bharadwaj gotra. We say the gotra of our Konkanis, okay, that came, okay, from there. And so in Ayurveda, there are two branches, okay, of discipline. One is the internal medicine, one is the surgery. So the surgery is the Kashiraj Divodasa, okay, which is from Banaras. So the surgery whole tradition developed in Banaras area, and their disciples, okay, and who is now known as the father of surgery, Sushruta. So they were more from the North India. Whereas there was an internal medicine tradition, which is called as the Atreya tradition. And in Atreya tradition, one of the major proponents or one who took it further is Bharadwaja, who came one of our ancestors. So I don't know, okay, I have never seen his photo, or okay, but okay, Bharadwaj is what my ancestors tell me is my gotra from, okay. And I learned it much later, okay, that Bharadwaj was one of the main proponents of the internal medicine, and one of his main disciples whose books are still studied is Charaka Samhita. So Bharadwaj was an internal medicine specialist, and his whole lineage is continued in South India. Then Kashyapa was a known pediatrician. So there is a Kashyapa Samhita in the name of Rishi Kashyapa, and it is a authoritative text in pediatrics or child's healthcare. So we Konkanis have that actual connection to Ayurveda. And so if you go to the coastal area, even in smaller towns, the food styles, the culinary habits, the recipes, and the lifestyle, all of it is very close to Ayurveda. So those of us who live the traditional, not the city, not the Bombay, Pune, Bangalore, the modernized cities, but in smaller towns, the lifestyle, the foods are more closer to Ayurvedic principles.
Dr. Shanbhag, a question. Namaskar. Bari like the Dolta Eklal Pura, very, I can use a lot. A question is, I mean, we eat a lot of quinoa. And like customer example, can you go down? Chia seeds. I don't know if it is Ayurvedic or something. You know, I had some good, readings on chia, especially it's a Peruvian grain. They say, it makes all the joints and all very smooth. So I've been eating chia seed. I'm just asking, it's not considered as Ayurvedic, right? From what I know, but again,
yeah, VP Ma'am, you can see me smiling because you share the same sense of humor as me. So let me humor you on this. Okay, so I tell my students, okay, is that they ask me, is licorice Ayurvedic? And then I tell them, speak slowly. Licorice doesn't know whether it is Ayurvedic or whether it is Chinese or whether it is European. So speak slowly, okay, because it might get confused. The fact is that licorice is used in China, it is used in Europe, it is used in India, it is used by the Americans, and licorice works the way how it works without knowing whether it is Ayurvedic or whether it is Chinese.
Oh,
or
I drink a lot of liquors. That is not a problem.
So,
Sorry.
by the way, chia seeds, okay, don't know that they are not Ayurvedic. So don't say it loudly in front of your chia seeds, okay? So, by the way, chia seeds, because it has got omega-3 oils in them, they are very much similar to Angala Tulsi Sabja Bimana.
Kasturi,
So they are very similar to that. So it is actually both Vata and Pitta pacifying herb. So it will be nutritious to you. So Ayurveda is just a principle. There is nothing called as, now we human beings are expert in labeling. So we call this is an Ayurvedic herb, but the herbs don't know whether they are Ayurvedic or they are Chinese. So same thing with your quinoa. Quinoa is a good nutrient, okay, for all three mind body types because it has got a healthy complex carbohydrates. And again, you can get quinoa that is whole quinoa or that is only white quinoa. So depending upon which quinoa you use, it should be nutritious for you.
Got it. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, and well, Baby Mom, you are one of my role models in terms of health. So I should be asking you some health questions.
Ask me. You will be misled. Not a problem.
He's not the only one. All of us follow him.
With last 1 year, I've been so scared about going out. So, I mean, I'm still good. Still, I think it is this pandemic has caused so much confusion in our minds. I haven't gone out for a long time.
No, I think you are doing the smart thing, okay, because we should use what the common sense information is. Common sense information is do social distancing, wear mask, wash your hands, exercise regularly, eat healthy, sleep well. So if you are doing those, then you are doing the right things.
Right. So yeah, thanks very much. And I'll talk to you sometime soon.
Yeah, I look forward to doing some more hikes with you. I remember we had a great time when we did that Yosemite hikes.
Yeah, Nevada Falls.
Yes.
Yeah, Nevada Falls. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll do that. But probably we have to wait at least 1 more year.
Yes. So next time you go on those long hikes, let me know. Gayatri and I will be happy to join you.
Sure. Vaccination, I'm still waiting patiently. Until then, I'm not thinking anything else at this point.
Yeah, no. Stay safe. That's the best way to do it. Take care of yourself.
Thanks. Okay.
Presentation.
Thank you, Kumandakar.
Okay. Later.
Oh, Vivek, one more question. I mean, now that we were talking about vaccination. Now, people are not sure is it safe or not safe, and for different age groups. So, what's your advice?
I have to get my crystal ball. Let me see. I'm just kidding. You are right, Arun Ma'am. The thing is that any information becomes more mature after time. So nobody knows actually, even the people who themselves have developed the vaccine are hoping and praying and keeping their fingers crossed that there are no long-term side effects. Having said that, because I'm in primary care myself, okay, I finished my second round of vaccine, okay, more than 10 days ago. Because people who trust me and who want to see me for healthcare, I want to increase their trust and faith. Okay, and then I just kind of did a gamble and said, okay, well, I'm going to go and get it. But in the past, okay, I have not opted for any other vaccines. Okay, I have never taken a flu vaccine, but this time I felt that if people are interacting with me as their primary care provider, I need to help them in feeling more safe. So though we do all of the other CDC recommended steps in our clinic, this time I chose to get the vaccine. So far, since I have not fumbled a whole lot, I think I'm still functioning.
Thank you.
Sure. So yeah. We all need to do our due diligence and keep gathering the information, but the final say has not been said.
Thank you.
Sure.
Vivek, it was a great presentation. We learned a lot.
Yeah, very, very
Thank you,
good.
Ashima. Thank you. Thank you. Ashima, you yourself are a nutritionist in your own right with all of the research that you do. So I get to learn a whole lot, and I'm the one who usually asks you a whole lot of questions and asks you recipes. So it's great to hear it from you.
Yeah, no, it's a different perspective, right? That's your field of experience and expertise. So it was, I mean, I learned a lot for sure.
No, you are our hiking buddy.
Yes.
Gayatri and I have been doing so many social distancing hikes with you guys, so that I'm glad you are able to be here for this presentation. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We want to
Thanks
thank
again.
Dr. Shanbag for patiently answering so many questions. And as everyone saw, he really enjoys answering and making sure everyone gets all the information from all perspectives. Obviously he's a wealth of knowledge. It's not enough for one session. So he has actually kindly agreed to do one more session if Kaukans want it. So that was very, very nice of him. So we might have a follow-up session based on his availability and the other sessions as well. So we look forward to that, and we really want to thank you, Dr. Shanbag, for your time and all the information you gave us.
Thank you, Preeti. As I said, okay, my love for Ayurveda comes from my love for nature, and you are my partners in crime for the various hikes that we have done together. So it's nice to working with you, because I love your and Kedar's enthusiasm for nature, and have enjoyed so many hikes with you, and really salute you for what you have been doing in last year and this year, in spite of the limitations that the pandemic has brought upon us. But you guys have really raised the bar in terms of your creativity and resourcefulness, and how you have not only entertained but also enriched the community with the various activities that you have done. So I can see that Shilpachi and Arun Mama are feeling all of the pride of all of the wonderful work that you're doing. And so I second VP Mam when he says that you guys should be, or Nettar Mam who said that you guys should be made presidents for life.
I heard it too.
I totally second that completely.
Yes.
You guys have done an amazing job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if you are going to make me do a second presentation, I'm going to make you do a second 8-year term.
No, but we'd really love a second presentation.
Mast chavan prash gaya. Takalevak kadas takai.
Vivek, to Kanik Sanchishila, because you've been so busy answering all the questions, there's a lot of appreciation from all the people in the session. Everyone really appreciated hang chat window antu pura barelia ki everyone is so thankful for so much information you gave everyone. So thank you once again.
Most welcome. Again, I presented only 3 or 4 slides. I know what the limitation is, but I think I enjoyed the questions and answers, and thanks everyone for asking those questions. Okay, teaching for me is like chocolate. I call it my instant gratification. So I actually enjoy teaching. I've been doing it for more than 33 years now. So thank you for giving me my chocolate and the pleasure. So thanks again. And I look forward to doing more of this. Maybe when I come back from India, I'm going to India in the month of April. So maybe sometime at that time we'll do more.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Vivek.
Thanks, Vivek.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for your appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek.
Bye-bye.
Bye.